Rolling your kayak. It feels so hard when you're trying to roll, and it can be a little overwhelming. The truth is, anybody can learn how to roll, and it feels so great once you learn how to roll and you can just progress without having to completely reset and dump your boat every time you try something new. Let's talk about rolling. Here's the thing, learning how to roll is so important. It's gonna make everything way more fun. It's also safer. You have a 70 or 80 gallon flotation device strapped to your legs that keeps half your body out of the river. And on top of that, if you never learn how to roll and you just choose to swim and you're happy with it, eventually you're gonna have trouble finding friends that wanna wait for you to dump your boat all the time. So learning how to roll makes everything better for everyone, and it'll speed up your progression. You can progress so much more quickly if you can try something, fail at it, reset like it never even happened. So here's the thing about learning how to roll. In order to really learn how to roll well and to learn efficiently or quickly, I highly recommend an instructor. Obviously, I believe you can learn a lot from a video, or I wouldn't devote so much time to creating these videos to share information. But the roll is one of those things that I really genuinely believe you need an instructor or a class to help you with. It just shortens the path. If you try to teach yourself, a lot of times you teach yourself with bad technique without even realizing it, and you can develop muscle memory that's counterproductive. You can make it so much harder to learn how to roll in the long run. That said, my plan here is to really guide you guys through the process that I would take somebody learning how to roll. All right, let's get started with some basics. There's a couple rules I'm gonna go over right now, and then I'll come back to them while we're learning how to roll. First, we have to relax. Relaxation is something that we have to learn how to do under tension or under pressure. And sometimes we have to be able to relax in an environment where we can't breathe. The second rule is the paddler's box. The paddler's box refers to the paddle and the chest lined up with the arms. The thing is, if you move the paddle away to the side without rotating your body, what it does is it breaks up the shape of that box. It doesn't look like a nice, neat box anymore. So the goal is to maintain that box, so if your paddle needs to go to the side, you can rotate your entire torso with it. And that protects your shoulders. The third big rule that I want to talk about is the separation of upper and lower body movements. You have to be able to rotate your torso independently of moving your legs. And so the easiest way to learn that separation of upper and lower body movements is sitting in your kayak and start by twisting from side to side with your torso. Then stop, move your kayak from side to side with your hips. Try to make a splash. Now try to do both at the same time. That requires a separation of upper and lower body movements because they're moving independently but cooperatively. And how you need to move them will change depending on what you're doing in kayaking. These three things are going to come back around again and again and again while you're learning how to kayak. You'll hear of two main types of rolls, a C2C roll and a sweep type roll. No matter what kind of roll you choose to do, the roll is going to have three basic parts: a setup, a sweep, and a hip snap. In the C2C roll, those three things are done independently, separately, and at different times. In the sweep type roll, the last two steps, the sweep and the hip snap, happen at the same time. I'm going to show you the hip snap first, and then we'll talk about the other areas, because the hip snap is the core of the roll. It's the foundational skill that allows you to roll your kayak. The other steps are really all about being able to roll and hold onto your paddle. All right, guys, the hip snap. Believe it or not, I tell everybody the hip snap is 90% of the roll, but the truth is, the hip snap can be 100% of the roll. I recommend a quality instructor, but if you don't have one of those handy, you can practice the hip snap on the side of a pool. The secret is to lay your head against the side as close to the water as you can. You want your head to stay in the water the entire time you practice. Breathing, of course, but just gently on the surface. You shouldn't have to put a lot of weight on your hands to stay there. Let your kayak flip all the way over, but you can leave your head out of the water so that you can breathe. The goal here is to relax. You have to feel safe, you have to feel comfortable, and you have to be able to relax just breathing on the surface of the water with your boat upside down. When you do the hip snap, you should be able to use the bottom knee or just a flick of the hips, however you want to think about it, to turn the kayak upright. Don't worry about getting over your boat yet. Right now, we're just talking about your kayak. Can you take your kayak from going upside down to upright, upside down to upright? Do it as fast as you can and gradually speed up. See how relaxed you can be, but also how fast you can be. You shouldn't be pushing off the side. Your upper body should be fairly stationary. When you feel comfortable with your hip snap, try in somebody's hands. It shouldn't take effort for them to hold you up out of the water because you shouldn't be pressing on your hands that much, not while you're hip snapping. When you do the hip snap, your hips should do the work to right the kayak, and then your body can come over the hips. Once you're very comfortable with that, you can start flipping all the way around to do the hip snap. A lot of people ask, can you put both hands on top of the side of the pool or the instructor? And I actually tell them no. You don't want to use both hands when you're practicing the hip snap because using both hands crosses the chest, and this arm will actually pull you back away from where you want to go. So when you're practicing your hip snap, it's actually better to practice on just your lower hand to do the hip snap, whether it's on the side of the pool or on your instructor. And on the side of a pool, it's even better just to rest your entire forearm on the side. That way, your head can just rest at water level, and then you can practice the hip snap from there. The whole reason the hip snap is the most important part of the roll is that your arms aren't actually rolling you upward. You're not pushing yourself up with your paddle or your arms. Your hips right the kayak, and then your body joins. All right, this setup, it's all about a home base. It's all about having somewhere to go to start your roll. And the reason it's so important is because every time your roll doesn't work, you need a place to go to restart your roll. The setup should be a place of safety. It's a reset. When you're sitting upright in the water line's gonna be about right here. If you're upside down in the water line's in the same spot. But that's air, and then all of this is water. So in order to do the setup, your goal is to reach for air as effectively as possible because you want to get your paddle out of the water. So here's what the setup looks like. For most people, the paddle will go on the left side of the kayak with your right arm forward. Most people are going to learn how to roll on their right side first. We call this the onside. If you're left-handed, there's a chance you might learn better the other direction, but most paddles are set up to make it easier on this side too. So the setup involves torso rotation. You have to rotate your torso independently of your lower body. And your paddle goes down next to you. Now, a lot of people feel like you should really tuck forward to stay safe, to put the paddle to the side. But the problem with tucking forward is tucking forward prevents the hip snap. It might feel safer to tuck forward, and we may tuck forward in a lot of other situations, but tucking forward on the setup can actually kill your roll. You can experience this in the pool. Sit upright, rock your hips from side to side as far as you can. Now lean forward and rock your hips from side to side. Now lean back and rock your hips from side to side. Now do it again, just sitting straight up. Sitting up, having good posture, gives you more hip mobility. So think about rotating your torso more to the side. Turn your torso to hold that box and plant the paddle to the side. Plant the paddle straight down next to you. The goal here is going to be to reach for air as far as you can, so you want as much flexibility of your torso as possible you're trying to reach as far as you can. Take your front wrist and turn it down. What that does is it changes your blade angle and creates a good gliding angle so the blade can sweep across the surface of the water without slicing through like a knife. If you're sitting upright, you can have a more relaxed setup and just put the paddle next to you, but make sure that you're always turning your wrist down because you want to get used to setting that blade angle. It's important to practice the setup in a way that you can get there from a state of confusion. So while you're sitting upright with the paddle over your head, go back to the setup. Lean forward, go back to the setup. Twist your arms around, go back to the setup. Lose your paddle, and go back to the setup. Get really comfortable going back to the setup. It might look a little funny, but if you teach your body this position is important, your body will remember. There are ways that you can learn how to roll and skip the setup phase, but it hurts you in the long run. The setup is vital to give you a home base to restart every time you fail at a roll. It's going to happen. For now, just put the paddle next to you and know that when you flip, you're going to be reaching as far as you can. You should feel air around your hands below your wrists, and your forearms should be rested against the side of your kayak when you're actually rolling. So in order to do a proper sweep, you're gonna have to be able to have your paddle out of the water so that it stays out of the water until you're ready to do the roll. The sweep is just a motion out to 90 degrees. You have to be able to go from the closed, curled up position to the open and vulnerable position in order to do the roll. If your paddle blade is going past your body and you're rolling up like this, that means that you're continuing the sweep way past where you need to be going, and you want to roll more directly to the side. Or it means you're hip snapping really late. It's okay if your paddle has to come past your hips, but then you have to rotate your torso to keep it in the safety box. If you're doing the sweep type roll, you'll start your hip snap the moment you start the sweep. The difference is you're doing both at the same time in the sweep type roll. You're hip snapping while you're sweeping. In the C2C roll, you can break it down further and you can slow it down, and it's a little easier to learn if you're more flexible, calmer underwater, and you don't mind taking your time. Once you get out to the side, you're going to be in this curled up C position. And when you pull the paddle, you're going to be in a C position on the other side. That's why it's called a C2C roll. Once you're upright, it's important that your elbow comes down to your side and that your eyes are looking at your paddle, relaxed and letting the water drip off of your head. By watching your paddle blade, you're guaranteeing that you're hip snapping appropriately and you're not using too much arm. When you come up, I joke, I tell everybody, you have to come up like you're in a shampoo commercial and just let the water drain out of your hair for a little while. In other words, keep your head down. But what is this whole thing with the head anyway? And is it really the problem that everybody says it is? The head is notoriously something you'll hear about when you're learning how to roll from your instructor. Most instructors will say, keep your head down. But if you've done a proper setup, sweep, and hip snap, you're gonna be upright. Here's why the head matters. The head means that you're either using too much arm, you're pulling your arms quite a bit to try to roll up. If you're pulling with your arms, that means you're not using your hips. The other thing the head does, and pushing with your arms does, is it engages your other knee, which pulls you back upside down and kills your hip snap. If you have really good separation of upper and lower body, you can roll just fine with your head upright. The head isn't really the problem, it's just a symptom. The other thing that kills a roll? Tension. If you get cold in the swimming pool or in the river, or if you're nervous or if you're not comfortable with your instructor, all of that tension has to go somewhere. If you're scared of water, that tension goes somewhere. Usually goes straight up your spine, right into your neck. Anytime you tense your neck, it forces your head up and it causes the rest of your body to engage. Holding tension kills a roll faster than anything. Rolling is about learning how to relax. And a lot of times it's good, instead of just hammering out your roll trying to learn it over and over, it's better to just take a break, catch your breath, and slow down. If you find yourself feeling tense while learning how to roll, take a breather and then come back to it when you're fresh. All right, some things to think about while you're learning how to roll. It's really good to work with an instructor because you want to maximize the number of times you do it right. You want your body to go through the motions correctly instead of trying things and not working, trying it and not working, because if you try it 10 times wrong and you do it one time right, your body's going to remember the 10 times and not the one. Learning rolling is a process. It's going to take time, it's going to take repetition, and the goal is to maximize how many times you do it well and minimize the number of times you do it wrong. When I'm teaching a student, I make sure that they do it with me and I guide them through the roll plenty of times before they do it on their own. And then I only give them one try and then I'll do it with them again. And the goal there is to maximize the positive muscle memory and minimize the negative muscle memories. You're trying to make the most of the time you learn how to roll, but it's about quality, not quantity. Quality time rolling is very different from going out to the lake and just trying it over and over and over again wrong, building the wrong kind of muscle memory. Because that wrong muscle memory will come back to haunt you when you're trying to fix your roll, work with an instructor, or when you're just trying to get your roll to be reliable. You're going for the most effortless looking roll you can get. And when you get it right, it'll feel like it was nothing. It'll feel like it took no effort at all. So those are the basics to how to roll. It's not everything. It's not all inclusive. It's not everything you could learn from a quality instructor. If you're an instructor and you're going to use this video, have at it. But I've made another video for instructors. So look out for that one or go check that one out, how to teach the roll. I'm doing a rolling series, so I'll also be covering, in addition to the C2C and sweep type rolls, how to do a back deck roll, when to use it, and is it safe? I'll also be doing hand rolling. One thing I want you to hear from me is that anybody can roll. And it makes kayaking more safe, more fun, and easier to learn. Hope this video was helpful. If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe. I'll see you on the river.